Hi everyone, Richard from Forsyth here. I have been searching for a good practice amp that I can just kind of keep in my living room, so I do so much guitar back and forth deals and things through there, and I just like to be able to have something nearby in case I get an idea. And I'm a big Peavey fan, and the Peavey Rage of this series, the Trans-Tube Silver Stripe, I can find it everywhere pretty much in my town. I live on the Gulf Coast, so we're pretty close to Meridian, Mississippi, where Peavey's based out of. And I found out through some research that there was another version of the Rage called the Blazer, which is what this is, that has reverb. I couldn't find that amp anywhere. To save my life, I could not find that amp. So finally, after watching and waiting on Guitar Center's used section, I found one of these guys for, I think this was 39 bucks. So I got it shipped to the house. Bear in mind, I specifically wanted it because it had the reverb, and I get it, the reverb doesn't work. And what was curious to me is there was no reverb tank in the back, but I could hear it inside. So I knew they must have put a small tank inside the actual amp section, but nothing in the back. So the reverb wasn't working, so I took it out, and this is what was in the amp. This little tiny kind of piddly thing that was glued in place back here at some point, but it wasn't glued anymore. I guess the glue had come off over time. Bear in mind, this is probably a 20-year-old amp, and it had just been sliding around, and it wasn't working. So I decided I'm going to go ahead and mod this amp. We're going to do a couple mods to it. In this video, we're just going to put in a nice tank reverb, this guy right here, and I think this was $17. You can see the difference in size here, so we should have a better decay and just a more natural sounding reverb. We're going to put this guy in, and I'll show you how easy that is to do with just, cutting up a set of AV cables. The other thing I want to do to this guy is add an extension speaker and go ahead and make a foot switch. The foot switch is a little bit trickier than you might think, but it should be interesting. But in this video, we're going to focus on the reverb. So let's take this thing apart and get right to it. Alright, so we have the amp out here on the bench, and you can see what I have laid out here. This is where the reverb connects, and I had already wired it up to do some testing, so I'll show you how I did that in a second. But this little piece is what was connected to the wires that go to this clip. So the first thing you need to do is take out the clip, which can be a nice little fun chore in itself, or you can pop it out with a screwdriver. Once you take out the clip, you can see that there are two pairs of wires. There's a blue and yellow and a black and green. These go to the respective sides. So let's take a look at the AV cables we're wiring them to. So this is an ordinary set of AV cables, and you can see just a red side and a black side. And I'm keeping this long because in the future I plan on taking out the reverb tank, and I want to be able to have it away from the amp while it's still hooked up to get weird noises. Just an experiment idea. So anyway, you have the red side here. Sorry, you have the red side here, and you have the black side, which is the white cord. And I wired blue to white, yellow to ground, and on the other side, green to red, and black to ground. And I'm going to solder these together, and we're going to tape them all up, and we'll hook it back in the amp. So let's do that now. Obviously, open up your own amp at your own risk. Be very careful about capacitors. Do not do any of this stuff while it's plugged in. You guys know the warnings. So I want to go ahead and mention that there was this little indentation under the bottom panel here, and I was able to slide all the reverb connections through that, so that way I don't have to drill a hole, because I really didn't feel like drilling a hole because it's 2 in the morning. Anyway, so We're going red to green. And then black was to the shield. And then on this side, we went blue to white and yellow to shield. Once everything is soldered in place, I'm going to go ahead and tape it up. And I basically have an electrical type of duct tape, which works fine. Stickier than electrical tape, but non-conductive. Good stuff. Okay, that's really it for the actual installation of the cord. And you can see, this cord for me is pretty long. The reverb tank is labeled in and out, and you'll see what that means here in just a second. Alright, so now we're ready to plug our reverb tank in. And I have my red set up as my return here. And I have my black as my send. So now we're going to turn the amp on. We got it all buttoned up. And just turn the reverb up. Alright. So we know the tank's working. So let's go ahead and mount it and plug in a guitar and see what it sounds like. Alright, so you guys remember my friend the purple cord right here? Let's try and see what it sounds like without the reverb, and then we'll see if we got the reverb working. So here we go. Alright. Now we're going to take the reverb, we're going to put it up about halfway, a little bit under half, and see what we get. Not bad. Our practice amp now has decent reverb. So let's go full bore here and see what full-on reverb sounds like with our new mod tank. So yeah, that's pretty lush for a spring reverb. I'm pretty happy with it. So I'm pretty stoked, guys. You can do this to your own amp, spruce up your Blazer if you got one, or another similar amp. On other amps it's even easier because the reverb tank just unplugs and plugs back in. We just weren't that lucky with this one. I also noticed that this amp has a 2-prong cord, so we may change that out for a 3-prong, just, for safety. But thanks for watching Thank you for watching, everyone. I appreciate it. Hope you've had a great weekend and a great summer. And I am so ready for autumn, it's not even funny. So see you guys around the studio. I'll talk to you next time.